Hi, would you like to see what I think is one of the best ways to clean up cast iron on your woodworking equipment and machinery? Then stay tuned. Before we get too far, please look down at the right hand corner of your screen. Hit that subscribe button and you will be the first to be notified of all the new videos. What I'm going to show you now is a simple 3-step process using basic supplies you can find at your local hardware store that you can use to clean your cast iron tops in your shop that will help them last for many, many years. Let's go over a few of the materials that we're going to need to clean this top. A pair of gloves, a can of Boeshield T9. It says on the can this stuff has been used for the protection of aircraft components and obviously many other things. It's just a general lubricant and rust inhibitor. A good brush, bristle brush. Get a cheapie. You're going to ruin it anyhow from use. You won't be able to use it on your dishes after this. A couple of different styles of scrubbing pads or Scotch-Brite pads. One is a little bit rougher and one is a little bit smoother. Blue shop towels. You can use any rags or whatever, of course. This is what I use. They're cheap. I get them for about $2 a roll. I have some crystal clear paste wax. Just about any wax is going to work for that. And then after we've done everything, you're going to want to have this other kind of wax. I get this. I think I get it at Hobby Lobby. And it comes in little squares. It's just a general wax, but it works great for keeping the surface smooth after use. Last but not least, the most important thing, and this is the secret ingredient of the video, is a crud cutter. It says on the thing here, and you can get this in different sizes. You can get it in smaller cans or bigger cans. I have a full spray for it because I try to refurbish a lot of different tools that have rust on them. The must for rust. This is not an advertisement. I don't get paid for this stuff. I've been using this for quite a few years and it works great. It is the main vehicle that I use for cleaning all of the tools. So you're going to see how this works here in just a minute. This is the basic components we're going to need to clean this thing. And of course there's going to be a before and after picture so that you can see just what I've done here. Now I'm going to walk you through really a 3-step process for cleaning this machine. First things first, we're going to take our crud cutter and we're just going to spray all over the top of this thing. After I spray it, I'm going to let it sit on here for a minute or two. It does not take forever. That's going to be more than enough for the first initial coating we're going to do on this thing. Okay, it's been about 2 minutes since I sprayed it, and the first thing I do is I take my bristle brush. I don't start with the Scotch-Brite pads because if the rust is not that super deep, there's no reason to abrade more than necessary. So you see, I'm just working this in. I'm not trying to remove anything yet. I'm not wiping anything up with towels yet. What I'm doing is I'm working this chemical into the steel. Just so you know, this stuff does stink to high heaven. I mean, it is not a sweet smelling chemical. So you may want to wear a respirator if you're appalled at the smell. Look at this. Someone committed high treason on a woodworking tool. They put a wet cup on the steel. That is one of the biggest no-nos that there can possibly be. Can't believe it. Now I'm going to let this sit here for like about another minute. I'm going to clean it up and see if I need to spray it again. Meanwhile, I'm going to be working the sides of the machine and cleaning that up. Okay, so I'm getting there on this and it's starting to look pretty good. You'll notice one thing that I did, and I really have to make this known. I've seen videos where guys are taking sanders to their cast iron to clean off rust. Please don't do that. When you do that, one of the things that what's happening is that you are actually smoothing out the surface, and although you think you're making your table smoother, you're actually making it a lot more difficult to push a piece of wood. Nothing causes more friction than two perfectly flat pieces of material trying to rub up against each other. There's a reason when companies machine these surfaces that sometimes there is actually a little surface left on them, and that's one of the reasons. So we're not trying to sand it down and make it perfectly super smooth. We're trying to restore it to its original condition. And I'm going to hit it with a little bit of Scotch-Brite just to knock the more embedded rust into here. As you can see, this tabletop is looking very clean now. But what I'm going to do next is show you a little bit of a magic trick which is going to protect this tabletop for a good year from the time I prepared it. And this is Bow-Shield product. Now, I don't use this as a lubricant for the very last step, but I use it as protection, which goes into the actual molecular structure of the steel and protects it. So what I do is I just spray this stuff down on it, go all the way around. This can's almost empty, so I'm just going to use it up. Now, I'm not trying to soak up all the Bow-Shield, so I'm going to fold my rag over real small, and I'm just going to rub it into the iron here. Now you're going to see this really start to come alive. Now after I've done this, I'm going to let this sit on here for a good hour or so until I come back and perform the very last step of treating this cast iron. Okay, you might hear the air conditioner going in the shop in the background a little bit. Just wanted you to know what that noise was. So the Bow-Shield is dried on here. It's been a little over an hour. And what I do is, now that it's dry, I go over it again just to make sure that every last bit of it is in there. And this already feels a lot smoother, but I'm just making sure that every last bit of this is cleaned up before I go to the next step now. So that Bow-Shield has worked its way into the metal. As you can see, I just rubbed that whole table and there's very, very little anything on there. So now here's the last step. The paste wax and the Scotch-Brite pad together. This is just how I do this. I'm not saying that this is the world's best way, but I tell you, I've been doing this for a little while, and so I think I've developed a good method. Now what I do is I just start by working this in, and ultimately what this is going to do, it's not so much a protect it for me, although I know that it does do that to tools. What I use it for is to really slick up the surface. Of course, in woodworking, the slicker the surface, the safer. So it protects, but also it's safer. The last thing you want, especially on something like a shaper table, is a piece of wood all of a sudden sticking, and then you have to try to push it through and it causes a weird reaction and can get you hurt. So, and what I do is after I work this in here, I'm just going to do this on the top too. I'm not doing this on the sides. The sides are protected. I'm comfortable with that. I don't need the sides to be slick or anything. But I'm going to be working this all the way throughout, and after this starts to dry up a little bit, I'm going to start wiping it down and basically buffing it in. This is what we call elbow grease time. Alright, this is starting to feel smoother. Now that first time I went around, got all the residual paste wax off. Now this time when I go over it, it's going to really smooth it out now. So look, there is a process, there is a series of steps, but it is worth it in the end. This is so smooth now. Of course, if you had a buffing machine, buffing wheel, you could definitely do it faster than what I'm doing it here and probably get much better results. But this, I'm showing kind of like the everyday man how you might go ahead and do this without having a buffer. And the paste wax is very forgiving as far as that goes. It buffs out very well. And I've kind of found sometimes I have used the buffing wheel and it tends to heat it up too much and melt the wax. So anyhow, whatever works best for you. How's that for pragmatism? That is smooth. Woo! So here's the thing. You can go over this again and again and again if you want to, and you could hit it with multiple coats of paste wax. Usually what I do is just this one heavy coat followed by just a continual rubbing out, and then that makes it super duper smooth. Alright, now I'm going to show you the very last step, what you'll have to do to continue to maintain it after this. Check this out. See that? Look at how smooth that is now. It just glides right across the top. Alright, so that's my process. This is step 3 now, and it's very, very simple. It's this piece of wax right here. Let me show you. This right here comes in squares at Hobby Lobby. It's just wax. You just kind of put it on here and rub it on your surface. And what I do is I take a block and I just start moving it over it as if, you know, I'm working the piece of wood. And that's really all you have to do from here on out, as long as you keep moisture away from the shaper, away from whatever tool it is you're working on, in this case a shaper, you'll be fine. And you'll have a nice slick surface, a nice safe surface that you can work on for a long time. So there you have it. If you like what you're seeing, please go ahead and subscribe. I have all kinds of videos available showing the full gamut of woodworking, from sawmill experience into the wood shop. Please go ahead and subscribe. Thank you very much.